Hi there, bird friends. I'd like to try something new today. I'd like to read you a message from a viewer, give you advice in a longer format version, and I'm not going to edit it. So I'm sure I'm going to misspeak and have some ums and ahs, and it's going to be an imperfect video. But I want to try to stay consistent with long form, widescreen content on YouTube. So here it is. This one comes from John. He says that he recently found me on TikTok and was very invested. He goes on to compliment me, which is very nice, and states that he has an orange wing Amazon, much like my friend Jake here, and he's turning 6 later this year. He has been with him since he was 4 months old, and he is a sweetheart. He's very accepting of cuddles and touching in places like his wing or his belly. The only thing that I think I failed with him is when he's out of his cage, which is the majority of the time. He doesn't accept anyone besides me touching him or even petting him. That makes the life of the veterinarian very hard, and mine too. I was wondering if you could help me getting him better and accepting other people. I saw your birds, and they seem to accept your family very well. That's my goal. Okay, so there's a few things to talk about here, and the first one is that you are probably sexually stimulating your bird. Now, I find that people on the internet really like to focus on this no touching rule, and I think there is some gray area there. There's some nuance, and I've tried talking about it before, and I haven't been able to nail the messaging just right, which is why I picked this particular message. So, John, your bird is just turning 6 years old, which for that species means it's now a sexually mature bird. It's essentially an adult. And that can often change the attitude of a bird completely. One reason why I really like the certified pre-owned birds or rescued or adopted birds is that you often know what you're getting. You're getting an adult and you know their personality, you know the challenges and what to work with. A lot of people reach out to me and they say my bird's completely different or this new behavior has started, and it almost always coincides with their bird becoming mature. And the things that you once did that had no effect now have an effect, and you're dealing with those consequences. Now, I don't want to make you feel bad because, again, the internet will really over-influence simple rules that say always or never, and I just don't believe life really works that way. You got to know your bird, you got to know the species, and you got to know your behavior. Unfortunately, if you think about it, a bird in the wild really only gets touched when one of two things is happening. It's either being eaten or it's reproducing. Now, of course, birds are going to alloprene with each other. They're going to preen each other, but that's a part of bonding, right? So they may do that with their mates, depending on the species. Sometimes birds are a little more acceptable of other birds in a flock situation. But when they pair up with another bird, they tend to be pretty monogamous. I like thinking of birds as married couples. People say that they mate for life, and I don't know how true that is because I have seen birds definitely dump their mate and go move on. I've also seen birds have a mate pass away and move on and be okay, either as a single or a repaired bird. But they have a tendency to be pretty monogamous and pretty loyal to each other, which then brings out some behavior. Also, as a side note, when you're keeping birds in your home as pets, I've seen males stick together and have mating behavior, females stick together and have mating behavior. So it's not necessarily a reproduction thing. It may just be kind of how they're wired for behavior. But regardless, it is always appropriate and safe to touch a bird on the feet and the head. Now, I just said I hate the always and never rules, and then I said it. Well, the truth is most birds don't receive any input. There's no miscommunication when you're touching the foot and the head to the neck. However, there are some birds that are so charged that you don't even have to talk to them to have them get excitable. I have an African gray that simply requires me speaking to her for her to start trembling and having issues because she's very charged. Now, when you touch a bird under its wing, and especially in what you call the belly, you are likely sending signals that you want to be its mate. Birds have a crop that is up higher. You're thinking of a belly down here. That would be closer to their vent, and of course birds have a one design for all things kind of situation. The internal plumbing is different, but the external isn't so much. So touching in the hips, the legs, and that what you call belly region is definitely a quick way to stimulate them. And that birds love it. It feels good. They often do welcome it. But the problem is once they let you do that, they get attached to you. They start doing things like attacking other people. And I see this in species like conures, for example. A lot of people say, hey, my conure just started flying over to my husband, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, whatever, and just attacking her. It's because it perceives you as a mate and it sees that person as a threat. That's when things start changing, where they're guarding their cage. Maybe it's a piece of furniture they're running underneath. Maybe it's you. Sometimes you even get bit because what they see is danger and they're on you. They bite you because they're trying to get you to fly away from danger. So there's a lot of ways this can manifest itself. It could be as simple as your bird not liking other people. You could also end up having screaming issues, aggression issues. You could see plucking, although that's a very complex issue. That's just one of the many things that can sometimes have an effect on birds. Another thing is it can actually really harm them. A bird's immune system can get very taxed from being sexually aroused and not having that outlet, which can eventually weaken their system and they'll be more susceptible to infection and other things like that. In the case of cockatoos, like a Moluccan cockatoo, sometimes they get prolapse where they literally have anatomical issues slipping out of them that require vet care and stitches, and it's quite an ordeal. So we do want to be very mindful of how we treat our birds. I believe when they're young, and that's an innocent thing, it's a good idea to desensitize them. And you want to do that for things like you mentioned, vet care. You want to be able to touch their legs, their chest, all over. You want to be able to put them over a towel, flip them upside down if they'll let you. And not all birds will. But you want to be able to do as much as you can because when a bird is stressed, let's say it has an injury, their heart is already beating at a fast rate every day. When they're injured, they're beating even further. And when you're handling them in a way that they're not used to, that could really cause a heart attack. Unfortunately, some birds do die at the vet or during handling if they're not used to it. So we want to desensitize them so if there's ever an issue, like maybe they get caught up in a toy or they get a cut on their foot, that they're not going to have additional stress. It's not just a cool trick for your vet. It could be a life-saving skill for them. So you start touching them in ways that they start to get used to it. Now, there's a big difference between getting them to allow you to touch them versus stroking them. I always tell people, don't stroke your bird like a cat. It's not a kitten. It's not a dog. So touching the wing is one thing, but repeatedly stroking the back is another. Sometimes I adjust my bird's feathers and people see that and they think that, I've done something wrong. I disagree. I think a one-shot move is okay unless your bird shows you feedback that says that it's not. But repeated stroking, things like laying in bed with your bird, there's so many triggers for hormonal behavior, and people are often so scared of that word. Birds are going to get hormonal. It's normal. It's a part of their life. You and I are hormonal too. All living things are. I don't know if that's safe to say about plants, but you know what I'm getting at. So don't be too afraid, but know that I think one of the reasons why you are where you are today is because you've done this for a long time and now your bird sees you as a mate. Now, can it be fixed? Absolutely it can. The thing I would start with is towel training with you and the bird. That might be a subject for another series, but find a specific towel, make it a color that's very recognizable, keep it near your bird, and bring it out and show them that towel. If they're afraid of it, keep it out, let them watch it for the longest time, and let them just get used to it not moving. Every time you interact with a bird, that's a training session. You always want them to end on a positive note. So there's a number of things we could do in this towel training process, which again, that might be a better separate video. But if your bird trusts you and it allows you to drape that towel over and you do that, and then there's positive reinforcement, which for a bird that's bonded to you, it's often just attention. That's a good thing. You get them used to it, and then that way when you need to go to the vet, we can just towel them safely. In terms of getting other people to pet them, well, birds do get the honor of deciding what they will and what they won't allow. I think that right now, there's zero chance of anybody getting in because you are the number one. Uh, if you have a friend or a family member that's willing to work with a bird, bring the bird into a neutral territory where they cannot see their cage. Maybe it's a place they don't go to and they're not used to. And then you need to leave the room. Let somebody else build a relationship with the bird so they can understand that there is a positive outcome to interacting with other humans. You'd mentioned your bird is pretty much out of its cage all the time, which is great, but that probably means that it's always with you. So it's not independent, and it probably gets a little bit nervous when you're around, when you're not around. So it's going to be a slow process. To be honest with you, I think it could take up to a year of consistent, short training sessions to end on a positive note. But you can absolutely find a way to make this work for you. At the end of the day, you made a mistake. It's not the worst one in the world. Please don't feel bad about it. This is absolutely something that you can correct. And to be honest, Amazons are one of the species that is prone to choosing one person. It doesn't mean they all do that, but it's a pretty common thing. So the good news is the orange-wing Amazons specifically do tend to be a little bit more forgiving than other Amazons. And I'm glad to hear that your bird's not attacking, screaming, or doing any of that other stuff, which means I think we're early enough to really make a difference. And I hope this video helped you. Just to end, you might notice that Jake here is missing feathers on the side. Well, I've had Jake for, I think, 5 years now. He has never once had feathers there, and it's because he has rubbed himself on perches, toys, and cages to the point where those feathers will not regrow. Yes, he has been touching himself inappropriately to the point where he has permanent feather loss. So nobody did that to him. Jake did that to himself. He is chronically attracted to conures and other long-tailed things like ring-necked parakeets. He's always been with one. We're actually lucky to have him out by himself right now. But he's a great example of this drive, this drive to reproduce. It's natural. It's what they want to do. And sometimes you don't mean to do it. They just put themselves in some situations. So if you're feeling hard about yourself, or if anybody watching this is feeling hard about themselves, please don't blame yourself. Birds make their own decisions as well. And that drive to reproduce is so strong that it would be impossible to keep birds away from it because it's natural. So I hope this has helped you. I hope it has helped anybody else. If you like this, please do give me a comment, share, interact, and let me know if you have any questions. Maybe next time I can make a video for you.